Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Open Network User Group podcast. I'm Mark Tierney, ONUG CTO. The term quantum is pervasive in society, often used and rarely understood. It shimmied its way out of actual science and into pop culture. Make no mistake, we don't have computer chips, lasers, MRI machines without the beautiful, spooky nature of quantum mechanics. But now you'll also get entangled in Marvel movies and spirituality. It's fun, it's exciting, but there is a darker side to quantum, the hacker side. I'm going to take us down to the very nature of encryption systems that protect us, and we're going to do it with my guest, Denis Mandich, the CTO of Qrypt. But first, ONUG Fall 2023, New York City, October 24th and 25th. We just had a great ONUG conference in Dallas. This one in Manhattan is going to be even better. So join the ONUG community of Global 2000 companies, tech execs, enterprise architects, infrastructure engineers, cloud providers, and thought leaders as we discuss and demonstrate the tenets of enterprise cloud computing, security, policy, networking. The list goes on. Go to onug.net to register for this event today. Use the promo code ONUG podcast to get a discount. Registration will be open soon, actually. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe the ONUG podcast. Here comes Denis. Okay, so joining me today is Denis Mandich. He's the CTO at Qrypt and just got done giving an incredible session at ONUG Spring 2023. Denis, welcome to the ONUG podcast.
Thanks, Mark. Great to see you again.
Yeah, it was so good to see you at the show. And we had an incredible spring conference, and one of the things that made it incredible was the session, and I don't know what we called it afterwards, but Q&A, office hours. I don't know what it was, but we had a lot of fun asking you important questions about quantum. But before we get into all that, Denis, just give the ONUG audience a little background on you. What are you all about? Where do you come from? Why am I having this conversation with a guy like you?
Sure. You already mentioned Denis Mandich, CTO Co-Founder of Qrypt. I'm a physicist by background. I was also a former member of the intelligence community for 20 years. And one of the things that I wanted to do when I retired with my co-founder, Kevin Chalker, also former CIA, was do something for industry that was an extension of our previous lives in the government, do more public service, something for the good of the economy. And we really looked at what was happening with the theft of IP from several countries abroad that were monetizing it and putting lots of US companies out of business, that we could do something to prevent that. And with the advent of quantum computers, we found a perfect solution for us to work on. It was a hard problem, and we knew we could solve it.
Okay, so let's. I want to take a slightly different view of quantum right now, and I would say, if quantum was a supervillain, I'd be really upset right now because AI is getting all the press, right? Everything AI is going to destroy the world. And it might, Denis. I don't know. Like, who knows? It could happen. But if that's true, we're not sending any love to quantum risk and quantum security. Or after listening to you talk, certainly not enough. So I definitely want to jump into the real issues that we are facing in the future. So, I mean, quantum mechanics, it's provided incredible opportunities in technology. There's so much that this world operates on with the underpinnings of quantum. And now we're focusing on risk. Why is that? What is it about quantum that's created a bit of fear, uncertainty, and doubt right now?
Sure. It's a big problem that's very different from the one that we hear most about today, which is AI is going to take over the world and so on. If you've played with any of the AI tools and asked them any hard questions, you'll realize that they can't do all that much. With quantum, it's very different. Quantum is a long-established scientific field with many discoveries that are very important to everything we do today, our digitalized way computers work, everything from the laser pointers that we use in the classroom. Here, for our purposes, it really impacts all cybersecurity, almost everywhere, all at once. The attack here is unlike AI in that we know what it is. It's called Shor's algorithm. And once quantum computers scale large enough, they will be able to decrypt everything that we do on the internet. All of the tools that we use to communicate for anomaly detection with our cybersecurity suites all use these same algorithms, which quantum computers are very efficient and very good at breaking, which is why historically the government has tried to get in front of this. Back in 2015, 2016, they started contests to find new algorithms to replace the ones that we're using today to run the internet. Every HTTPS session on the internet, every TLS connection you do on your enterprise, all use the same set of classical algorithms. These new algorithms are the ones that we're hoping through these new NIST standards will be durable, or at least quantum safe for some period of time against quantum computers. But the honest truth is that we don't really know. And the biggest issue here is what the government describes as harvest now and decrypt later, which is a very old technique where large government agencies, big hacker groups, well-funded criminal organizations will collect encrypted data from the internet and hope to find a flaw in the encryption mechanism, the random number generation mechanism for the keys, the software libraries used, and so on, and then decrypt it and operationalize it and ultimately monetize it. But now we're seeing the largest nation-state actors in the world, very sophisticated, very capable, storing vast amounts of data, knowing that once we transition to these new algorithms, they may not be able to decrypt them in the future. But once they have quantum computers that are big enough, they can decrypt everything we're doing today. That's the short version of the situation that we're facing.
Okay, so you said it. You threw some light on to AI and said, they really can't do that much yet. And I have been feeling this way about this quantum risk as well. That if you just do a general Google search, heck, I asked Chat GPT today. Is this really a problem, right? And the answer and answers that the mainstream is giving us right now is this is years away. This problem is years away. We simply don't have the capacity, the bandwidth, the technical underpinnings of quantum computers, qubit computers that can actually make this happen yet. And yet, I felt like I heard a slightly different story from you at the conference. Let's kind of shake this out. What's reality? Is it here? We just don't know it. Is it nation states? And who knows what they're doing in the back rooms, right? So
Yeah.
Help us understand the actual risk from a timing perspective, if that's fair.
Yeah, there's no simple answer to that, but I'll start at the top level, which is science and quantum physics are not a democracy. Everyone doesn't get a vote when quantum computers will come online. It's just a handful of companies and researchers who really know when that will happen and which technologies will succeed. There's lots of ways to make qubits. The ones that we see scaling with IBM and other companies around the world today may not be the technologies that make the big quantum computers. We already know that other companies are working on very different techniques to scale to 1 million qubits very quickly in the next 2 or 3 years and make those available as a cloud resource. The other problem is that given my background, the intelligence community, no nation state would ever give up their sources and methods. If they had an advantage like this, whether it was military or intelligence, they would not reveal it publicly. They would try to keep that a secret as long as possible. I'm not suggesting that China has already beaten us on this front, that they're ahead of us, but they are much more well organized. They're much better funded. They've centralized all this research. They've recognized the vast market advantage it has in many industries beyond intelligence collection and decrypting data. It's the difference between the haves and the have-nots in the future. The people that have access and the companies that have access to quantum computers can solve problems that are otherwise completely impossible by classical computers of any size. Even if you turned every atom in the universe into a supercomputer, a quantum computer with just a couple of hundred, 300 or 400 logical qubits, which is not the same as physical qubits, can outdo any supercomputer that could ever be made. That's a stunning number. It's not a lot. And my personal belief is, as a physicist and having seen science fiction level engineering projects inside the US government, is that it will be a step function. There will be one technology that outdoes all the other ones very quickly. It won't be a linear growth in one of the systems that we see scaling today. And that's really what the risk is. And I don't like when people assign a number to it. It's a 50% chance in 2 years or 5 years or 2% chance in one, whatever the number is. The consequences to all of our infrastructure, the fact that all of that becomes completely transparent and visible all at once, everywhere.
The risk is so high.
Exactly. Right. You can't put a number on that.
Dennis, I'm glad you brought up, this aspect of, you just mentioned percentages and probabilities and things like that. And I need you to knock me off my high horse on this. An argument I have often with the people that say quantum's just not there yet. We're years away. I tell them, and I never promised the audience that there wouldn't be math or physics on this show, right? And this is a math and physics kind of issue. The reality is, or at least my belief is that you don't have to be perfect in this space when you're trying to hack encryption, right? Commercially available quantum computers and the problems as we advance the number of qubits available. My understanding is one of the things that's in the way is you collapse the quantum wave function, and you have some level of a surety at the consistency of your answers. I'm obviously paraphrasing here. And my position is simply, if you're hacking encryption keys, if you miss a few, it's not a big deal. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you just keep trying, it's okay. Tell me I'm wrong there, but it doesn't have to be perfect science to end up with a really dangerous system.
Absolutely.
Am I wrong about that?
No, you're right. With the encryption keys, the way we've designed the global communications infrastructure and the encryption systems behind them, you absolutely know if you guess the right key, because you can decrypt that packet. And that key is probably valid for a lot more packets and a lot more databases than a single email or text exchange between us.
So if you're noodling around and miss a few, you're going to get a few, and which is my point. And
that's right.
To me, that just increases the risk probability profile of all this with respect to the timeline.
Sure does.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it's one of the questions I had was maybe the state of quantum computers, and what I'm hearing you say is we're likely already there, if not very close. The nation states that are also likely to be the ones to exploit all this are very close. Are they the only players in this, or once quantum computers are you can go to IBM and Google and get access to their quantum systems. I mean, is this going to be open season for any hacker who wants to get access to quantum to start breaking encryption, or is it no? It's going to be limited to a few players.
History is our guide. Hackers and nation states use every cloud service, every vendor under the sun to do their operations. They don't have some secret layer in a cave. They just use the regular stuff that we all use. And the same thing will happen with quantum computers. There's no way to stop that. You can't say quantum computers, even though they're a cloud service, will not run these types of algorithms, because you can always obfuscate it some way and get those resources the same way that they use storage from all the cloud vendors for all their exported data. They don't bother spending hard drives in their house. They're literally using the same places that I store my photos online.
That's hilarious you say that. I mean, it just seems like every quarter you read a story of how some massive enterprise left an Amazon S3 bucket open. Like, really, we still haven't learned we can't close that hole, the one that everyone knows about and slapped us in the face, 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're making a great point there. It's going to happen.
Yeah. And there's no point owning a quantum computer. They'll be expensive in the beginning, maybe not. But why would I bother buying any hardware when it'll be a very cheap resource that everyone uses online? You mentioned IBM's QuizKit and these other smaller, not cryptographically relevant quantum computers are free to use online. They want people to use them as much as possible. And to get in, the first byte is free. Everything after that you pay for. Once you get used to using them, solving problems for your industry, you're going to keep using it.
I will say IBM's a little different. IBM's quantum system looks like a gold-plated espresso machine, so there's some pluses there. Let's be honest about it. It just looks good.
They've done great
100%. Enterprises, I hear this story and I go, what can I do? Like, what can I possibly do? Certainly without government help. What do you think enterprises should be thinking about right now?
Well, right now we're probably a little bit less than a year out from new standards coming out, which are mandated by the government for all government agencies, which really means every contractor to the government, which is almost every enterprise software and hardware vendor, that you will have to transition to these new quantum safe standards in the coming years if you want to do business with the U.S. government, which is a Fortune 0 company. They collect trillions of dollars in revenue every year. So that's not optional for most businesses. And right now, what you can do is assign an individual or a small team to monitor developments in the space and start testing these tools to transition to these quantum safe applications, quantum safe infrastructure. Things will break. You will not be able to run it on many systems that are probably more than 3 years old. And if you're buying systems for the next 5 to 10 years to stay in place, you want to demand from those vendors that they be operational on these new technologies, or you'll have to replace them at great expense 2 or 3 years from now and learn completely new systems and investments in hardware. That's not a good place for anyone. So it's time to start thinking about it. It's time to start assigning a team, get some partners, and start working in the space.
So I've seen the acronym PQC, or post quantum cryptography. Is that a thing? Is that the nomenclature we're using?
That is, PQC is the set of asymmetric key standards for public key infrastructure that we're transitioning from the older ones, RSA, elliptical curve, Diffie-Hellman, to, well, it's only one really left standing for key exchange or key encapsulation. That's Kyber. That was a very big learning point for everyone in the space, in this industry, because until a few months ago, there were 2 that were ready for standardization early next year in 2024. The other one's called Psych. And that was broken very late in the 3rd round by a regular laptop, which could also happen to Kyber, which is why the government has told us to be crypto agile. Be prepared to build new systems that can hot swap these new post-quantum algorithms on short notice, because we don't have any mathematical proof that they're durable or even secure against quantum. We believe they're safe because nobody's found a break in them. No one's found an issue with them. But again, a very late round candidate that was about to be validated by NIST next year failed to a regular 10-year-old laptop.
Wow. What I like about what you're saying here is, as it relates to advice, is you don't have to wait for all the solutions to know that you should have a transition strategy, right? And while you're doing that, you should be thinking about these transition strategies with the mindset that where we're going still might fail, and we might have to transition again, right? And so, no enterprise is going to solve this problem by themselves. I don't think. It doesn't feel like it, but
No.
every enterprise should be able to position themselves to, just like patching code, there's a process. We create process for that. We create best practices around it. Let's make sure that to your point, that we've assigned people, we're thinking about it. We are going to start making post-quantum cryptography solution management, part of our nomenclature, and be in a position to execute. Sounds like a great collaboration opportunity as well with the community. I say that specifically for ONUG because that's kind of what we do. So
it is an opportunity for everyone, and the realization is now across large enterprise anyway that this will take 10 or 15 years. And so even if you don't believe that quantum computers will come online for 5 or 10 years, it's not a light switch. You can't just transition to a new version of TLS and you're done.
But the risk, correct me if I'm wrong, the risk is a light switch.
Yes,
is that right? I mean, it is a step. Once those systems are in place, the world falls, right? I mean, the cryptography fails.
And it's in everything that we do. Every place there's an arrow on your architectural network diagrams that's using some form of security or encryption. And a reminder, some of these systems are very old already. They have not transitioned to modern classical encryption systems, PKI systems. That transition is only about 60% complete, and we're 20 years into it. The internet, data structures, the cloud, containerization, all these things didn't exist the last time we went through this. We're in completely uncharted territory while we're still developing many new technologies that need to use it. This will be a long and painful process. And again, starting now, you don't need a 100-person team. You just need one or a handful of people to get smart about it while they're doing their day job.
Wow. Okay, I'm trying to figure out if I'm feeling better or worse. Information's always good, but it just hit me that there's a pretty significant trough of despair between when the tech is available and all of encryption crumbles at our feet, and when solutions are available. It sounds like it sounds like that's going to be a tough time for financial systems specifically. I suppose it's not limited. I mean, what have you? I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit, but are there other things at risk? I mean, the financial stuff's easy, right? Like that. Obviously, those we're going after those things. Any other risk in this space? In other types of environments, it's certainly intellectual property protection, right?
It's all of our critical infrastructure, telecommunications, everything, petroleum distribution. It's in everything. And if we look back as a weak analogy to what happened with solar winds and how that's a little bit of something that's in everything, we have almost the same situation. And again, these aren't simple things to just patch and fix. They're upgrades. They're significant changes to the way that we do business today. And it's a part of a larger question, is evolving the internet itself towards more privacy and less of the surveillance capitalism, making it very easy to data mine information. We have to transition away from that and realize that the privacy and the security end-to-end encryption are a greater priority now than they were maybe 10 or 15 years ago with the way data is used today. And with AI and machine learning coming on, there's no one reading our emails or text messages and laughing at us. It's machines deciding, if our kids are a good bet for college because they were, drinking beer on Instagram when they were 15 and things like that. So we shouldn't have these things happening anymore. We have to go back to kind of an earlier state of communications where it was built around privacy and not data mining.
Right. Wow. Okay. So I'd really run through the questions I had. You gave a great session at ONUG. Anything you'd like to highlight? Because that's going to be generally available to ONUG members and other interested parties. Anything that we missed that particularly stuff that was part of your presentation that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I think one of the big issues is the realization of the transition period and maintaining a level of risk tolerance during that period. there's some high value data in every company. I mentioned this in my talk that 10 years ago, General Alexander, then the head of the NSA, I think said it best at the time, which is that this is the single largest transfer of wealth in human history in the form of IP from one country to another. This is a national economic security issue for all enterprise to secure themselves and to put every company on a path to long-term durability and stability. This means a lot to all of us that have kids. We want our kids working for Apple and IBM and so on. We don't want them having to work for Ant or Huawei or somebody else. So it's a problem not for the next guy, the typical infrastructure people that would have to deal with something as complex as this. Some of them are in their job for 2 years. Some are, building this for their resume. This isn't really mowing the lawn for the next guy. It's really a today problem. And most of that data that's already been harvested and that's awaiting decryption and operationalization is already damaging to our economy. And we have to start thinking of things beyond, the 2 or 4 year election cycles. We have to really start thinking about changing the way we do business and to enhance security for all of us. It's really a national economic security imperative. And I hate to be the dark cloud in all this. There's good news stories to quantum. Everything gets more secure, right? We get that privacy back. When we do end-to-end encryption with these out, there are no more middlemen harvesting what we do. Quantum computers will also solve huge problems in pharmaceuticals, like cures for cancer, new vaccines, and so on. So there's a very bright side to it. What we're trying to do is really protect everyone to do business and not have to worry about their IP and their communications being exposed and exploited one day.
Dennis, you didn't even mention the weather. Like we're going to get better weather predictions, right? Isn't that what I constantly hear about?
Absolutely. It's quantum computers are incredible at modeling, specifically those types of systems, complex problems that are completely unsuitable for classical computers, intractable problems. And quantum computers of a modest scale can solve those very quickly. And I'm excited about a lot of them. This is, the entire history of mankind until this point was an abacus and a supercomputer have about the same amount of power as just a very small quantum computer. So you think about that. All the supercomputers in the world today and an abacus are about the same power level to a modest sized quantum computer. And we can build lots of those, solve huge problems.
Yeah. Wow. That is amazing. Dennis, this has been a great discussion. So you mentioned your company Qrypt. Feel free to give us a little more insight into what you do and how people can reach out to you.
Sure. So one of the fundamental problems with the way we built our systems today, which is what Qrypt is trying to get away from, is coupling the data and the means to decrypt or break that data with the standard public key infrastructure that we use, which is really just used to distribute keys. So what Qrypt does is rethink that system for a quantum secure world where we don't distribute keys anymore. We simultaneously generate keys at every endpoint, and we invalidate the techniques that are used today by our adversaries to collect that data in the middle because the keys were never in flight. So if you can generate keys at the endpoints, it doesn't matter if our adversaries control all the infrastructure. And we did an actual demo at ONUG on how to do that. If you have a data center in Sydney, Australia, and you want to communicate to one in Washington, D.C., and you're worried about the routing of all that submarine cable, data centers, and so on, you no longer have to worry about that because we assume that they're collecting it, but they can't do anything with it anymore. So we think that's a better model for everyone going forward and to start transitioning to more modern systems that were not invented in the 1970s.
Awesome. And they can get a hold of you through qrypt.com. Is that right?
That's right. And my email is just Dennis with one N at qrypt.com.
Dennis, I can't thank you enough for being here. It's been a fascinating discussion, and I'm looking forward to having more of them with you and Qrypt. Listen, everybody, this is what ONUG is all about: is bringing this information to our membership. If you want to get involved in ONUG, go to onug.net. Check out our collaboration page. We have lots of working groups. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we stood something up in the quantum space in the not too distant future. It'd be fantastic. Dennis, thanks again for being with me today. On behalf of the ONUG community, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next ONUG podcast. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Mark. Great time.